Hello, this is Bobby Kagans with Freedom Gunworks. Today we're going to talk about stroking a pistol, 1911, 2011 platform specifically. From time to time we get emails asking about what the advantages or benefits are of stroking a gun and what all it entails. Today we're going to go over some of that quickly, briefly, but kind of get you the gist of it. Alright. The way that the stroking come about was probably 10 years ago. Dave Dawson was building commander length open guns with a shortened slide. And in a commander length gun, the reverse plug tunnel sits 100 thousandths closer to the frame bridge than in a standard slide. You can see the two of these. This is a commander length slide. This is a standard 5-inch slide. And you can see how much shorter that is. Well, there are a couple of ways to fit a commander link slide to a frame. One of those ways includes cutting the frame rail shorter. Basically, the front island, you're shortening that bridge for that extra travel, the clearance needed for a commander link gun. Well, Dave Dawson came up with it. Well, I don't know who originally came up with the idea, but Dave Dawson made it popular. But there are two ways to do this. You can either cut off the frame rails to accommodate for the travel of the commander length gun, which would be this part right here. You'd have to cut 100 thousandths off of this, or you simply cut 100 thousandths off the back of the reverse plug tunnel. The reverse plug goes in here, and there's a shoulder machined inside. So the questions that people ask, what benefit does it offer? As far as recoil, none. Zero, zip, zilch. It doesn't do anything. Yeah, it lets the slide cycle travel further to the rear, but what does that give you? Nothing. Someone will try and tell you that as the slide travels to the rear, that it bottoms out on the frame rails. Well, that's not true either. The slide never goes that far. And it wouldn't be healthy for the pistol if those two pieces were hitting against each other. What actually happens is the reverse plug bottoms out on the recoil system. When that happens, and which it happens before the slide and frame rails impact each other, that's what stops the rearward travel of the slide. So one of the ways of stroking a limited gun, well, it doesn't matter what kind of gun, but one of the ways of stroking a gun includes removing material off the back of the reverse plug tunnel. Now, this is a 5.5-inch gun, but you can see we've cut 100 thousandths off the back of the reverse plug. I'm sorry, 200 thousandths off the back of the reverse plug. It lets the slide travel 200 thousandths further to the rear. Spring stacking, the springs are manufactured to a certain length, and they're going to compress at what they do. And it's not providing for any more spring travel. It's really not doing anything. As a matter of fact, some of the guns that we've had come in here that were stroked had really light springs and coils cut off the springs. Those coils had to be removed from the spring to allow the slide to travel a little bit further. But that's not helping anything. It's not reducing any recoil, and it's not even dampening anything. So what's the benefit? None. Yeah, your slide travels further to the rear. Why? It doesn't need to. It doesn't gain anything from that extra travel. The recoil isn't softened. If you want to make a gun shoot flatter and softer, the slide is the reciprocating mass of the gun. This is the part of the gun that's slamming and bamming back and forth in recoil. When you first pull the trigger, the hammer falls, there's ignition of the cartridge in the chamber. There's very little sight lift from that general ignition. The sight lift actually happens when the slide comes to the rear and bottoms out on the recoil system. That's when you get that front sight lift. Then the recoil spring starts pushing the slide back forward again, and it goes back and returns into battery. Alright, if you want to reduce how much lift there is, reduce the mass of the slide that's sliding back and forth on the frame. The less the slide weighs, the less kinetic energy it has when it hits to the back. The less the slide weighs, the less recoil spring you have to retard the motion of the slide, and the less spring it takes to move the slide back forward. So I'm not saying that less spring is a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just saying less mass, less spring. It takes less to slow it down, stop it, and send it back forward. So if you want to make your gun shoot flatter, do it by reducing the weight of the slide, the part that's going back and forth and causing most of the recoil to begin with. And another thing, we had a couple of these so-called stroke guns come in the shop. The cut's not being performed properly. It's really not an intensive process. It only takes a few minutes, but it involves cutting material off the back of the reverse plug tunnel. Sometimes some people choose to ream the reverse plug tunnel forward. That's another option. But one step that must be taken that hasn't been on the slides that we've seen is to take the radius out. When you move the reverse plug tunnel forward, you also have to come in here and remove that material on the inside of the slide. Then you have to take a key seat cutter and cut the rails forward. You got to extend them forward. Alright, when you come in here and you cut this material out on the inside of the slide and you use an end mill, you have a radius there. Well, what happens is as the gun cycles, the backside of your reverse plug tunnel is beating on your guide rod, peening it. If you'll take your guide rod out, those of you that have stroked guns, if you'll take your guide rod out, you'll see that here on each side that they're getting peened up, beaten, hammered really bad. And that's not something we want to our guns. They shouldn't be taking that kind of impact and shock. Not those two pieces against each other. So one of the steps that will have to be taken, and I'm saying this for some of you that do this stroking thing, you need to come in here with a key seat cutter vertically, and you need to cut square each side of this edge, just like it's done when it comes from the factory. Having a simple radius in there is not going to work. You're going to beat the gun up. Anyway, aside from that, there's not a whole lot about stroking guns. You can pay a lot of extra money for getting something like that, but it doesn't do anything for recoil. It doesn't do anything to help or make the slide function better or faster or anything else. If anything, you're increasing the amount of travel in the slide and not decreasing it, so you're not speeding it up. To say it makes a 40 shoot like a 9mm, that's a bold-faced lie. But if you want to buy that snake oil and drink that Kool-Aid, then that's your decision. But it's a simple concept. The slide moves further to the rear. That's basically all it does. It was done originally for commander length guns. It's a step that allows you to put a commander slide on a standard frame without having to cut the rails. If you don't cut the rails and later you want to add a full-length slide, then you can. Only thing you've done is taken your commander slide and shortened up the reverse plug tunnel on it. You haven't hurt anything to your frame. So it kind of allows you to go in both directions. Say for instance a person wanted to build a shorty and a standard 5-inch, a shorty being a commander length gun for Steel Challenge, and then a 5-inch gun, standard open gun to shoot USPSA major power factor stuff. If you cut the frame, it's cut. Both slides, it's cut. If you cut the one slide, then you can go back and forth without changing anything. You can rebuild top ends on this gun over and over and over and you haven't affected anything. But once you cut the frame, the serial numbered part, then it's cut, and it's always cut. So slides are relatively cheap. They're half the cost of a frame kit. You can do the cut in the slide, stroke the gun, basically stroking the slide, and not have to do anything with the frame. So the concept behind stroking, extending slide travel for recoil, does nothing. It still goes to the rear. It still bottoms out. You're not changing anything. You're not affecting anything. But if you take the slide and you try top the slide, add some lightning cuts, do whatever you want to do to reduce the mass of the part that's cycling back and forth, you will significantly reduce recoil. That's it. That's all we got today. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, sales@freedomgunworks.com.